The Moist Meter is a proud partner of our comic book series Godslap and Plague Seeker. Both are available at badegg.co, link in the description. This is probably the easiest Moist Meter I've ever made. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. Absolutely amazing. Just a genuinely incredible film. Mission Impossible is probably the best action franchise ever. Like, it's gotta be in the conversation, if not the number one spot. This franchise has been cooking for 30 years, and they never miss on the recipes. They're delivering exquisite meals. The cuisine is a delicacy every time a new Mission Impossible rolls around. Fucking Tom Cruise is 61 years old, and he's, like, not geriatric at all. He's still doing all of his own stunts, risking life and limb, putting it all on the line in order to deliver an unforgettable experience, and it shows. The passion here is unlike anything else in the industry. 30 years, and they keep finding ways to get better. That is so rare, especially in Hollywood, where half the time it's just formulaic garbage that's just dribbled out for the sake of trying to capitalize off a beloved franchise while putting no effort into it, just absolutely phoning it in. But Mission Impossible, it just wants to just keep going, fucking full throttle and never let off the gas. And man, it is such a breath of fresh air. And another thing, like I mentioned, Tom Cruise is 61 years old. Usually when someone's reaching this age, they're no spring chicken anymore. But somehow it never comes across as like weird or lame. It doesn't ever feel like he has to slow down in the film. Like he is still doing the same kind of stunts that he used to do when he was 40 years younger. Like, he is still at an extremely high level of athleticism and an extremely high level of, like, executing good choreography and making things look amazing, which is crazy at his age. Even someone that I think is comparable, like Keanu Reeves with John Wick. In John Wick 4, there are moments where you can see he's kind of slowing down a little bit. It doesn't really take away from the experience. I still fucking love John Wick 4. But you can see that it's getting a little more difficult for him to do some of like the moves that he was doing in John Wick 1, for example. Tom Cruise, though, this man's got fucking adamantium bones with goddamn like plutonium running through his veins that's powering him. It makes no sense how he's able to do what he does in this film at his age. So anyway, I haven't even really begun talking about the movie. Dead Reckoning is a two-part movie, and this was part one that dropped, and it is so good. It is just so good. Now, I know a lot of people are going to get into the debate of which is better, Dead Reckoning or Fallout, which was the previous Mission Impossible movie. A lot of people consider that to be like one of the best action films in general ever made, and I understand because it really is extraordinary. But I honestly do think Dead Reckoning here, assuming part 2 is as good as part 1, will be better. Now, of course, since it is just part 1, it didn't wrap itself up, but it didn't fall into the same trap that a lot of other two-part movies have, where it feels unsatisfying by the time the credits roll around. Dead Reckoning Part 1 has a really nice conclusion that feels like you got like an entire experience worth, you got a good natural stopping point, it doesn't feel abrupt, it keeps you salivating at the mouth for more, but still your tummy is full from the meal that the chef prepared with love. I can't stop talking about how hard this shit cooks. I want to go back into the kitchen and kiss the chef on the mouth. It is incredible. So I didn't feel like walking away from the film, you know, that it came out of nowhere, the ending, because it felt natural. So I have no problems at all with part 1 here ending where it does. I think it did a great job, and I'm super excited for part 2 now to see how they wrap it up. Now, one thing I actually like more in Dead Reckoning than I did in Fallout is the story. I really like all of the new characters they introduce here, but even more than that, the narrative itself, I actually think just feels much better in like the current landscape of the world. Fallout, while I still agree is an extraordinary film, it did have the cliche nuclear threat. The fingers on the trigger, the nuclear bomb's gonna bust ass at any moment now. How are they gonna stop him? How's Ethan gonna put the kibosh on this bad guy? The concept of the plot wasn't anything super new or innovative, it just did the concept better than anything else that has ever really come before it. However, in Dead Reckoning, they don't go that direction. There is a nuclear bomb moment because you fucking gotta have a nuclear bomb moment when it's high stakes like Mission Impossible, but the core is around AI and the threat that it poses both with the information that it's able to disseminate or the misinformation that it's able to disseminate, as well as even being able to take control of warheads. So the main threat is about who's going to take control of this extremely powerful and extremely deadly AI that's becoming sentient? Now, that itself isn't exactly, a novel concept that's going to have you fucking flying back into your chair or anything. That's been done a lot, like most notably Terminator with Skynet. But it doesn't go in that direction. It doesn't feel cheesy and it doesn't feel goofy because AI is such a big talking point in reality right now. With how quickly AI is advancing, nothing in this film feels far-fetched or silly. It's very interesting at the capabilities, the dangers AI could pose in the wrong hands. And Ethan Hunt's rationalization of how best to handle a situation like this with a threat this large. I really like the narrative a lot here. I think it's nice and refreshing to go in a bit of a different direction as opposed to just standard bad guys got big bomb. Even though that's not exactly a bad thing if that is the plot, because Mission Impossible has proven that it can do anything and do it well. Dead Reckoning, I think, has the best set pieces in the entire franchise. I'm just going to say it. The action set pieces in this film are unbelievable. They are so good. I don't want to spoil anything here, so I'm trying very loosely to talk about things because I think this is a must-watch movie. This is one of those films that absolutely is worth going to a theater to see. It is an experience more than a movie. Yeah, I'm getting real pretentious sounding, like sniffing my own fucking farts here, but seeing this movie in theaters is definitely the optimal way of experiencing it. Mission Impossible deserves it. It's so fucking good. I just don't really have any complaints about this movie, aside from like two very minor ones that I can't really get into because it's kind of spoilery, but I'll just say they involve plot convenience moments where I feel like they were so focused on delivering a really cool action moment, but then ended up kind of backing themselves into a bit of a corner, and in order to kind of salvage the situation, they needed to pull from their ass a little deep to get out of that situation, even though it doesn't really make a ton of sense how it happened. That's about the most I can say without getting into spoilers, but it's not a big deal. Like, that's a nitpick. Like, if I was really going to look for something negative, it's just there were a couple instances of where I felt like they didn't really write something super cohesive on how they get out of this situation. They just kind of do because they needed to. They're the fucking heroes. And even though I do like the villain, I think he wasn't super fleshed out here, and it really feels like they reached a bit in order to connect him to Ethan's past in a way that felt kind of like an afterthought almost, but it's not a big deal because I do think Gabriel, the main villain, like the main villain outside of like the evil AI potential, like I do still think he was cool. Like I think he was like a good villain to have. Every time he was on screen, I felt like this is a big threat moment. This is going to turn into some shit. It's about to go tits up real quick. And Gabriel has a subordinate named Paris who's just a badass. She like fights with a sword. Like it feels like she was a character out of John Wick. It's like it actually is really just cool. There's nothing in this movie that isn't just really cool. So yeah, anyway, I think this is a must-watch movie. Plugging Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 into the Moist Meter, I'm giving it a comfortable 95%. I really hope Part 2 sticks to landing. I do hope they give a little bit more to Gabriel in particular. I would like to see that, but I imagine that is the plan considering this is only half of the story they want to tell. And I think they've already done a great job with it. So yeah, I think it's fantastic, and that's about it. So yeah. Huge thanks to ourselves for sponsoring this Moist Meter. Godslap is a comic series written by myself, Jackson, Matt, Danny, and Aubrey Sitterson. It follows the story of a character named Ace, who's an extremely powerful slapper in a world where slapping is king. Issue 3 just dropped. It's all available at badegg.co, and shit is starting to pop off. Ace is being hunted by a mysterious foe named Defister, who after swan diving through a hospital, picks up Ace's trail and hunts him to the ends of the earth with his sidekick Olfactor. And also, our newest comic series, Plague Seeker, just came out. Issue 0 is available at badegg.co. It's written entirely by myself and edited by Jackson. It's set in a world 1,000 years after an apocalyptic event known as the Calamity. An asteroid hits Earth and it brought with it mutations that changed all of its inhabitants. Now the world is infested with things called plagues, and atop the food chain sits 8 great plagues that control the entire world, and only one man stands against them, the Plague Seeker, who has an insatiable appetite to devour those 8 great plagues. So all of this is available at badegg.co, so please check it out. See ya.